What's up? What's happening? You already know who it is and what it is. It's your boy Q Walker, aka Nephew Q, host of the world's most dangerous sports show, Beyond the Game, here to give you another episode. And today I want to talk about Nick Saban. Old Saint Nick, old Nicholas Saban, you really done stepped in it, man. What tangle web we weave when we set to deceive, or however, whatever the quote goes. Nick Saban really done stepped in it. Like, he was trying to get a message out about the NIL, but in the midst of him doing so, he started snitching and dry snitching on other teams, players, and things of that nature. So I want to talk about the things that he said, but how he messed up the message that he was trying to convey. Now, if Nick Saban would have just stuck with talking about NIL deals and how it could affect college sports in general and how it can sway a recruit to go from one school to the other, or how it affects recruiting in general, if he was just trying to convey that message and just stuck primarily to that, nobody would have had a problem with anything he said. But it was a simple fact that he started name dropping and dry snitching about other players in schools that really got a lot of people in uproar. So let's talk about the first instance, which is the Travis Hunter dry snitch that he did. And this is a direct quote from Nick Saban. He said, hell, read about it in the paper. I mean, Jackson State paid a guy $1 million last year that was a really good Division I player to come to their school. It was in the paper and they bragged about it. Nobody did anything about it. I mean, these guys in Miami that are going there to play basketball for $400,000. It's in the newspaper. The guy tells you how he's doing it. Oh, Nicholas. First and foremost, the player that he's talking about is Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter was a number one rated high school player coming out of high school last season. And he originally committed to Florida State, decommitted from Florida State, and committed to Jackson State with Deion Sanders. Now, let's talk about this for a second. Now, first and foremost, Nick Saban. That had nothing to do with you. That's not even in your backyard. Like, why are you meddling about what's going on in somebody else's backyard? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Florida State hasn't said anything about how they feel about Travis Hunter decommitting from them and committing to Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders. So if Florida State doesn't have an issue with it, why in the hell are you dry snitching, complaining about what's going on in somebody else's backyard that ain't got shit to do with you? Now, I can understand if he had some ill feelings if Travis Hunter had committed to Alabama, then decommitted and went to Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders. I could understand his ill feelings, although misplaced, but I could understand where he was coming from. Brother, that had nothing to do with you, what was going on at Florida State, Jackson State, and Travis. That had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with you. So why are you even bringing that situation up that had nothing to do with you? But Travis Hunter and Deion Sanders have both said something about it now. Deion Sanders tweeted today, "You best believe I will address the lie Coach Saban told tomorrow," meaning tomorrow. "I was awakened by my son that sent me this article stating that we paid Travis Hunter $1 million to play at Jackson State. We as people don't have to pay our people to play with our people." Now, that last sentiment, he's meaning that obviously Travis Hunter is African American. Jackson State is HBCU. So basically what he's alluding to is we don't have to go play another black kid to come play with and for black kids. So why are you stating that we had to go pay this guy to come play with us? And Travis Hunter tweeted out something today as well. He said, "I got a meal, ? With a laughing emoji, but my mom still stay in a 3-bedroom house with 5 kids, laughing emoji." So basically Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter are both coming out refuting the fact that they paid him directly $1 million to come to Jackson State instead of going to Florida State. So Nick Saban should have never even reference or mention that situation because it had absolutely nothing to do with him. Again, and if Nick Saban would have just stayed on course and talking about how NIL deals can sway a recruit from one to the other, he would have been perfectly fine without mentioning players' names or anything like that. But it's the fact that he brought up this specific instance that's got people in an uproar because they're like, why are you bringing Deion Sanders and Jackson State, what they're doing into the equation? But anyways, continuing on. So now he name drops, Texas A&M and saying they purchased their number one recruiting class. Now, that's not verbatim. That's paraphrasing what he said. Now, Coach Jimbo Fisher had a 15-minute press conference today to address things that Nick Saban has said. And he said, and I quote, this is Jimbo Fisher. He said, "Some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deal. You may find out a lot of things that you don't want to know. We built him up to be the God of college football. Go dig into his past. The narcissist in him doesn't allow these things to happen when he's not on top. Now, the reporters asked him a couple of other things. They asked him if Nick Saban attempted to contact him after his comments, and he said, "Oh, he's called, not going to, we're done. He showed you who he is. He's the greatest ever, huh? When you got all the advantages, it's easy." And he addressed the current state of college football. He said, "It's disgusting what we're into right now, especially about the people throwing darts having no glass in their house." And the reporter asked him on himself and his program. Jimbo Fisher stated, "I have nothing to hide, and our program has nothing to hide. You can call me anything you want to call me. You don't call me a cheat. I don't cheat. I don't lie. I learned that when I was a kid, if you did, your old man would slap you upside your head. Maybe somebody should have slapped him." So Jimbo Fisher has responded to Nick Saban's comments about these things, but this is my takeaway from him. That's fear in Nick Saban's voice talking. I don't know if y'all understand that or not. Nick Saban is dry snitching and snitching about what's going on because he's afraid right now. He's afraid because Nick Saban has had a stranglehold of dominance on the NCAA for 10 years now? I mean, basically, the University of Alabama football team is a pipeline to the NFL. These high school kids know that, so they go sign with Alabama in hopes of going to the NFL because they know this program will help get them ready for that next stage in life. But now the NIL deals have thrown a wrench into it, and some of these high school kids are like, well, hell, why go to Alabama and sit behind a guy for 2 or 3 years and then get to showcase what I'm going to do when I could go to school X, get this NIL deal, and start from day one? See, Nick Saban knows this. That's why that's fear talking in his voice and why he's bringing up what other schools are doing, because he knows that now he can't get these #1 recruiting classes year after year after year after year based upon the fact that we're Alabama. We get kids into the NFL. Now, don't get me wrong. Alabama's still going to be Alabama. They're still going to be good. So it's not like the program is going to crumble because of this and kids aren't going to go there now because of this. But Nick Saban has to also be careful because these high school kids are watching this, and they're watching how Nick Saban handles talking about other kids going to other programs. So when he walks into that house and that kid doesn't ultimately sign with Alabama, is that kid going to be now thinking, well, damn, is he going to start talking about me now because I signed with school X instead of the University of Alabama? So Nick Saban's got to be very careful about what he's saying and what he's putting out there in the precedents. Now, also, when Nick Saban was running college football with his dynasty, right? Nobody was saying a word about what he could potentially be doing, because let's not get it twisted, right? Ever since the beginning of college sports, guys have been getting paid under the table in some capacity, in some form, right? Now, in college football, it's a little harder to police because you have 30 to 40 guys on a roster versus college basketball, you have 12 to 15. So it's a little easier to police college basketball, although it's still not easy, but it's easier because you have a small selective amount versus this large group of guys. Now, you would be a fool, a damn fool, to think that every guy that has went to the University of Alabama didn't get compensated in some way, sort or fashion, right? I'm not saying every guy that attended the University of Alabama got paid something in some sort of fashion, but what I'm saying is I trust me and believe that there are guys, past and current, who are getting paid in some capacity. That might not be money. It could be in the form of a car. It could be the form of your parents getting a new job in a new location. It could be the form of your parents getting a new car. It could be some kind of capacity, because let's not forget, a lot of these schools, these power schools, do a lot of things to sway parents and kids to come to their school, and nobody ever hears or knows about it. So Nick Saban, let's not act like your program is just clear cut and dry and clean and nothing dirty ever's going on. You might not have ever caught your players doing anything dirty, but you best believe some of your players are probably doing some stuff that you don't know about. And it's not your fault, because like I said, you can't police 30 to 40 kids every day, all day, because Nick Saban, you have a life too. So you can't do that. So that's hard to do. But you be a fool to think that some of these kids ain't getting paid underneath the table, especially some of these kids who might not be NFL caliber guys. they're going to make sure that while they're playing at the University of Alabama, they're going to get something out of the deal besides the education. Whether it be, like I mentioned, a car or a nice house or apartments paid for or whatever the case may be. Because when you go play for these Power 5 schools, not everybody's going pro. Just because you were projected to be a high draft pick coming out of high school doesn't mean it always pans out that way. So some of these kids go to school and get a little bit on the side because they don't know if they're going to go to college or not. And speaking of that, Nick Saban, my guy, if you have a problem, let's just say hypothetically, Travis Hunter did get $1 million, right? I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying hypothetically. And let's say Texas A&M did pay their players somehow, some way, because the NIL deals are set up is the school directly can't pay them, but they can get deals outside of the school. But let's just say, for instance, these kids go to Texas A&M on the back of getting these NIL deals. Nick Saban, I thought it was about the kids, right? I thought it was about putting these kids in the best possible positions to succeed, not only in the classroom, but in life, right? So if you got these kids who are in poverty situations, which majority of these kids going to these schools are, and they're offered, $40,000 or X amount of dollars that could help pay their parents' rent. Ain't that what it's about? So if these young kids are taking and going to schools based on the decisions that they make that could help their family, isn't that what it's supposed to be about, helping the kids out? So if this kid feels like, hey, I'm going to go to school X because school X, I can get an NIL deal in that area that's going to be worth $35,000 each year I play, versus school Y is only going to give me $5,000 per year I play. This is going to help my family more than that. So if it's about the kids, why are you complaining, Nick Saban? It's because he's afraid of what's about to happen, which is a lot of these recruits aren't going to go to Alabama just because it's Alabama and it's an NFL pipeline. Now it's, well, what school can I go to possibly help my family out too and help me achieve my dream of going to the NFL? That's what Nick Saban is afraid of, and that's why he's name dropping all these schools, teams, and players. But anyways, that's my whole thought on the whole Nick Saban thing. Like I said, Nick Saban was trying to convey a message about NIL and how it needs to have parameters set in place, restrictions, and so forth and so on, which I agree on. But again, he should have just kept the message at that instead of bringing in other players, other schools, coaches, and whatnot. Because first of all, the coaches are supposed to be a brotherhood, right? So then why are you bringing up Deion Sanders? Matter of fact, y'all did an Aflac commercial together. That's like, why are you bringing Deion Sanders? Ain't bothering nobody. And like I said, that situation had nothing to even do with you. It was in somebody else's backyard, and you meddling over the fence trying to figure out why was he doing over here? He's supposed to be down the street. Why is he over here? Ain't got nothing to do with you, Nick Saban. Chill out, sit down. And Nick Saban, let me tell you, you better adapt to these NIL times, or these times is going to pass you by. Now, these other schools, they're adapting to what's going on, and they're playing the game that's in front of them. That's all they're doing. I suggest you adapt and change to the times of what everybody else is doing, or else you're going to see Alabama slowly but surely fall behind in high school recruiting classes, because these other schools have figured out the game of how can we get these guys the best NIL deal so they can come here and play for us. Nick Saban, you better get on your game instead of crying and complaining. You better fix and change some stuff. And that's a problem, because he probably doesn't want to fix or change nothing, because he was just fine doing things the status quo and the way they were. But now this NIL stuff has changed the game completely, and he don't know how to adapt and change to the times. But anyways, you guys let me know your thoughts, views, and opinions on what Nick Saban has said. Was he right, wrong? Do you agree with me in what I'm saying, or do you not agree with what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments below. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you can't do that, make sure you download the Beyond the Game app on your Amazon Fire Stick. If you can't sit down and watch a show, make sure you listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms, and subscribe to the podcast on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast at. And also make sure you download the Beyond the Game app on your Android or your iPhone and get notifications every time a show drops, so you can stay up to date on what's going on beyond the game. Well, this is your boy Q Walker, aka Nephew Q, and as always, treat somebody how you want somebody to treat your mama. And we up at this thing, y'all. Peace.